Like me to open up a trouble ticket? No, here we go.
I feel like I need tech support. And, we've got a bunch of our MSPs on the line today. So, I could probably use a lot of that tech support. So Corey, thank you for that moral support that you just gave me there. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So what do we hear about today? We're here to talk about the thing that continues to cause the greatest pains as we see it out there and where breaches are initiating from. And the sad truth of this is we're still seeing an incredible amount of breaches that are coming from email. Everybody, this isn't just our findings, whether you're looking at Gartner, whether you're looking at Verizon, whether you're looking at just about anybody that puts a security report out there, it's in the 90th percentile that we're still indicating that breaches are starting with email. And to me, that's a little bit sad, because we've all been in this game long enough. We all know the need when we had the on-site Exchange servers, the great need to have a good anti-spam solution, as phishing has obviously taken over the dominance as what's happening out there. We really need to start to understand what we can do better to do the right thing by our customers. So let's talk about this a little bit more. We've got Office 365, and I get it, Microsoft is now calling it Microsoft 365. We're trying to figure out what we should call this, but I think we all agree that we understand what Office 365 means in G Suite. This is where the majority of the mail servers are residing today and where the majority of your customers are getting their mail from. So you've got your presenters here today. You've got me, for those of you that met me. You've got Corey Clark, which I'm sure a lot of you have worked with him and his team and what they're doing up there in the endpoint space and our threat intelligence, and the elusive but ever wonderful Will, the Shadow, Alexander. For security reasons, we cannot have his picture up today. But for those of you that have had the pleasure of working with him, you'll understand why we call him the Shadow.
Not quite sure how to take that. Thanks, I think.
It's a compliment, maybe.
Okay.
Unless you're coming from another country trying to come back into the country and then it causes problems. But other than that, that's a story for a different day.
One time.
Yes. So a little bit about who we are. We are a master managed security service provider dedicated to our channel. This is where we're here for. You can see some of the awards, some of the accolades that we've received with our CRN 100 2 years in a row, top MSSP 2 years in a row, and I think the new 2020 top MSSP rankings come out September 15th. So hopefully we'll see that as a third year in a row with that. Don't see any reason why we wouldn't. So moving on, I think every one of you have heard this from us. And if you haven't, well, then we're not doing a right job with our mission. We believe that the basic security foundations come through three components. One, having a DPI SSL enabled firewall, two, the email security, and three, the endpoint protection. For those of you that joined us sometime in the last 10 days for our endpoint protection webinar, we greatly appreciate you for coming back. But more importantly, today we're talking about email security. And because the email has moved out beyond the gateway, it's no longer behind the firewall, and the endpoint is struggling to defend off, we wanted to have this opportunity to talk to you about how and why and what we think about the email security space, and some fantastic offerings as to what we believe will make this better for you and your clients. So on today's agenda, talking about today's reality. But talking about reality and not having a solution, it's most likely like a nightmare. But that's not where we're at today. We're not trying to have a nightmare conversation. We're trying to have an idea with solutions. And let's go with it. Stupid pricing. Why not? We're not used car salesmen, but we can act like it today. We're going to offer these low one-time prices. And honestly, it's not one time. We're going to run this through the end of the year. And why we think this is stupid pricing, some of this is our response to our community and how we're trying to assist you with COVID. We know that it's been hard. We know it's been impactful. We know that it's caused problems financially, but we also know that the attack patterns aren't slowing down. They're actually picking up. So let's talk about today's reality. Cloud email, it's not going away. It's picking up speed, and it is the new wave of the attacks. Here it is, coming from the Verizon data breach report from 2019 and the Global Phish report. 91% of attacks are starting with phishing. 94% of malware incidents are now being delivered via email. These are huge problems. I mean, huge, massive problems. And we all know that if you're reliant on Microsoft, they're missing at least 30% of the phishing attacks that are coming in. And it is for sure the #1 threat resulting in breaches. Big, huge ones. We don't have it on here, but I don't know if anybody watched the national news last night, but Dade County down in Miami got smashed last night. They haven't come out and said where it's all come from, but it looks like it might be a combination of a phishing attack and a denial of a service attack. Unfortunately, all of these kids that are trying to get educated through distance learning had their days interrupted. And it's very unfortunate because we're already struggling with our children and education. And so to have people taking advantage of it, it really just makes the situation worse. And it compounds this in a way that's really unnecessary, but that's what makes them the bad guy. And this is what makes us the good guys. You know, COVID-19, it has been a massive uptick in what we've seen in phishing. The amount of malware sites that have been stood up, the amount of nastiness that has taken place out there, it's kind of incredible as to what is going wrong out there and how people are taking advantage of it. But the beauty of this is there are ways of defending against this. There are things that we can do to help our customers. So Corey, why don't you go ahead and talk about what we're looking here? Because I think, you know, you've brought up some interesting points that even just over this past week.
Thank you, Michael. So this slide deck might look a little familiar to you if you were part of my Silence webinar I performed last month. Emote and Trickbot, they are twin brothers. They are the #1 infection that I had to deal with all last year, and now they're back. So there was pretty much a 4-month lull where we weren't seeing any campaigns out there for Emotet, but now they're back with vengeance. So if you're not familiar with Emotet, it will 99% of the time come in through some malicious type of email. And in that email, they're going to have a link for you to click on that's going to bring you to a macro-enabled Word document, or they're going to actually have the document in there themselves. Then what they're going to ask your end user to do is to enable macros, and then that macro is what's going to infect that endpoint. Now, Emotet is just the start. Emotet, once it gets on an endpoint, is going to start doing reconnaissance on your environment. If your antivirus is not blocking that macro, they're already in there, and they're very, very clever on hiding themselves. Once that reconnaissance is done, it's going to wait probably about 48 hours, and then it's going to download what's called Trickbot. Trickbot is going to go even more in depth on the reconnaissance. It's going to use tools like PSExec. It's going to implement command and control features, so the bad guys can do a scan of your environment to determine, are you a good candidate for them to encrypt with the Ryuk ransomware. Next slide. Over the past 48 hours, so the last 2 days, we have identified 3 Emotet infections just in the last 48 hours. Now, we have a great group of SOC analysts, and they love threat hunting because as I told you, Emotet is very tricky and it gets hidden very, very well. That normal alerts can't identify it, that we have to use threat hunting capabilities to seek it out and identify it. So while they love finding these things, as part of what they're doing, I hate making those calls, and those are very tough calls to make. So here's a live example of one that happened yesterday, where you can see on the top left-hand side where there is, in that user's root of that user's directory, there was a random folder name with a random executable with a bunch of different characters in it. And I correlate that with what I'm seeing in their antivirus. And if you look to the far right of that file name, you'll see that, one, this is coming out of Outlook. So they were attacked with a spear phishing email, and they were targeted because you can see that doc was trying to impersonate a PO number that would have occurred back in January. It is very, very easy to spear phish someone. How easy it is I can easily look up your MX record through MX Toolbox, for example. I can identify that you or your customer is using Office 365 because it's going to say outlook.protection.com. Now I'm also going to check your LinkedIn. Your LinkedIn is like the Facebook of corporate America. I'm going to look to see who is your accounting people, who is your CFO. And then I'm going to target them with something like this saying, hey, I ordered this, here's my old PO number, what's going on? And since I know you're using Office 365, I'm going to have, for when they enable the macro, it's going to say, hey, for security purposes and confidentiality, which someone like a CFO would appreciate, I need you to go ahead and put in your Office 365 credentials. So then the CFO is going to put in those credentials. Now I have those credentials. Now I'm installing Emotet, and that spear phishing email just got you twofold.
Big deal. It's a big deal. And I think, unfortunately, this is all preventable. Not at 100%. And nobody should ever think that anything is 100%. And we're never going to be that organization that says that. So we've got a new strategic alliance. We've picked up this wonderful new partnership with a company by the name of Avanan. And it really is email security reinvented. And for me, I think one of the reasons why is that when you think about the way email security has been done for many years, we start talking about the email gateways. And not disparagingly, not saying that they're doing anything wrong, but just to point out a couple of them. So you start talking about the Mimecast, the Proofpoints, or the Barracudas, or the Mail Protectors, or the App Rivers of the world, and they do an amazing job, but the implementations are a little bit more difficult. You have to change the MX records. You have to wait for those MX records to populate. You have to start making greater configuration decisions for your customers to get it to work. And what we've seen with this idea of email security reinvented, especially really focused on the Office 365 and G Suite, the power of the API. Having this one-click API option that gets in there, that starts looking at the mail, starts identifying it, starts cleaning it, starts running its algorithms, starts allowing the AI to be trained. And, Will, Mr. Shadow Man, what have you seen implementation times look like when it starts to come to the Avanan solution? How long is it taking?
So from the time we authenticate with a GA account to get Avanan integrated into 365, we're seeing emails in about the first 15 minutes. From there, we normally let it run, and depending on how many emails are in the portal, it's normally about a day, less than 24 hours before the AI is fully trained, and actually knows everything about the environment.
So that's pretty amazing. When you think about within the first 15 minutes, think about your experiences and how you've dealt with this, and you've dealt with the SEG technology out there. It's far longer than 15 minutes before you start to see and to discover everything. So what that is, that's time to value. That's allowing you to get back to the business of doing the business, because we're going to do this for you. We're going to do the implementations. We're going to do the configuration. We're going to get you stood up. And we're not asking you to go in and get to your customer's DNS and make the MX record changes and do all of these things. But it's also going to provide some other really key components that are going to be really critical. Here's where the architecture is really different. And here's the thing that we do need to focus on as well. The internal emails are a key source of phishing. And so that is something that Avanan is also very capable of looking at, and the account takeover scenario. I think that's a really big one for me. We hear quite often from our partners that somebody's 365 account got taken over, emails were forwarded on, or they didn't even know, and it was going on for a long period of time. And then all of a sudden they just started to realize that folders were missing. Lots of emails were being deleted. They were never getting them. So being able to look at that account takeover scenario, that is a huge advantage that the SEGs can't do. When you talk about these traditional email security players, they can't tell when an account has been taken over in Office 365 or G Suite because they don't ever see that authentication. They're not seeing that. So it's a really important advantage when we start talking about the email security architecture that comes from Avanan. And getting beyond that, it's so much more than email. How many of your customers have gotten rid of their file server and are completely reliant on OneDrive or Box, or they're using Slack for inter-office communication, Teams? So much Teams is going on out there. Everybody knows that between OneDrive and Teams, SharePoint is the linchpin between it all out there. And these are all things that we can now start to protect. So it goes so far beyond just thinking about email. It's now talking about the cloud and how you're protecting the cloud services that you are procuring for your customer that come from Office 365 or come from G Suite. So here it is. Here comes that stupid pricing that we were talking about. And this is where we think we wanted to do something for our community. We wanted to do something for our partners, wanted to do something for you so that you could do something for your customers. And if you look at the advanced anti-phishing, So you're going to get your anti-phishing technology. You're going to get your email and account takeover protection, and you're going to get the URL click time protection. So Corey, when you started talking about the Emotet a little bit ago, what do you think that URL click time protection might do for some of this Emotet that we're seeing?
It's going to prevent them from the account takeover, from putting in their credentials, and then it's also going to help them from that first tactic where they're going to have a URL that leads them to a malicious macro-enabled bug.
Now, I will tell you, we've experienced some of this on our own, and I'll say that it was a little bit of a false positive, but it was a really unique scenario that we weren't even expecting. So for all of you that are in our Cylance program, and either in that tier 2, tier 3, or MDR offering, you know that you get your audits that come from that team, and they get sent out twice a month. Well, those audits are a report card, and they have an A or they have a B, and they have these letters in them that indicate what your score is. Well, all of a sudden, the DLP functionality of the Avanan protection started to pick up, and we didn't understand why it was tagging the reports, and what it thought was happening is that we were identifying blood type inside of the reports, and it's PHI. So really interesting that, when you're not even thinking what that DLP engine could do or how powerful it could be, it was a great opportunity for us to learn that on ourselves, what we're sending out there. Now, obviously, that report card wasn't indicating that if somebody had A positive blood type, it was just meaning you were doing a fantastic job in your configuration. Or if you had a B negative, again, wasn't indicating that you had B negative blood type, but really interesting. And then very easy to account for. I think I had asked Will and the team, hey, could you please explain to me why we're getting caught here? And we might have gotten an answer back in 10 minutes. So it was really impressive how easy it was to see and understand what was going on. So you can see this through the end of the year. Now, when I say through the end of the year, I don't mean that your pricing will change come January of 2021. What it means is that if you come on board with us, you will get this aggressive, stupid pricing that will be yours for as long as you stay with us. Corey, I see that we've got some question, or at least one question coming in. So if you could maybe field that question. We're going to have some Q&A time here in a minute. We do have their full suite of what they're offering. And so you can see that we've got the complete malware protection and the full suite protection. The complete malware protection, it's where we now have the sandboxing capability and the malware that we can look at when it comes to Dropbox, when it comes to OneDrive, when it comes to SharePoint, when it comes to Citrix ShareFile and other collaboration apps, which is really, really important because for a lot of you that you have Cylance or you have SentinelOne or you have a CrowdStrike or you have a Carbon Black or you have a Deep Instinct or you have some other amazing endpoint protection, that is fantastic, great, and well when it's going to a Windows-based or a Mac OS operating system. What happens in all of this work from home when somebody's accessing it on their iPad? Somebody's accessing it on their iPhone. Somebody's accessing it on their Android. Somebody's accessing it from their home computer that is infected, and now that malware is being pushed out into that company's directories. Now we have the ability to add that level of protection. So you could go with the complete malware protection, which gives you all of the advanced phishing, but it gives you more. And if you're looking for that data loss prevention, you can add the full suite protection, and it brings up everything from advanced phishing to the complete malware as well. So again, end of the year, stupid pricing. Corey, let's see, what do we got here?
Well, I got something for you, Michael. So,
all right.
For over the past many years that I've talked with all of our MSPs, I've taken all of their concerns and brought them into three main points. One, they want to make sure what we're offering them is cost effective. At $1 an endpoint.
That's cost effective.
At $1 an endpoint, that is cost effective. Now, and the question we had is, can this run in, besides my current email security suite like Proofpoint or like Mimecast? Yes, it runs great side by side. Because as you know, anything in security should be a layered approach. And at $1 an endpoint, it's definitely cost effective. Now, if you're looking to replace Proofpoint Essentials, right, which is their entry level offering, right, you can also start looking at any of these other three offerings that we have for complete malware protection or for the full suite protection. But what we've also seen to make sure that we can make sure that this is cost effective, the number one point is, we can even say, hey, you can currently use your current Office 365 anti-spam protection because you're getting the core component of your email security that you really need, and that's protecting you against these phishing emails. Now, the second point that I've seen them is it seamless? Because who has all the time in the world? While I love, email security platforms like Proofpoint, like Mimecast, it can take a lot to implement and a lot to maintain. As we indicated earlier, we are not modifying your whole email infrastructure. We are doing an API call, so initial setup takes 15 minutes. For the actual machine learning algorithm to get to the high 90 percentile of figuring out what you guys are doing and what's good and what's bad, as Will indicated earlier, 24 hours. It doesn't get much more seamless than that. And then the ability to have a one-click response, right, to make a rule that says, hey, this is good or this is bad, that comes in to hit that seamless category. Now, the last category is it effective? Well, one, we wouldn't be talking to you right now if we didn't. I have yet, knock on fake wood, had any of our customers come to us and said that we led them in the wrong direction. Now, we can validate this for you. This does have proof of concept capability. So if you want to validate this, if you want to see this, we can get you into a free proof of concept.
Thank you, Corey. And I am just replying to some of the questions that were coming in while Corey was talking. So one of the questions was, could you run it with Proofpoint Business Essentials? Corey responded to that and said yes, and I will even go a step further to say that those of you that know us probably know that we are using Mimecast because we have probably sent you a secure email at some point in time in the future, and we are actively running this. We're running the full suite protection along with Mimecast at the same time, and it's causing no issues. So, for sure, it can be done. Maybe your customer is uber security sensitive and has a greater budget. Maybe you want to run both. Maybe you want to run an SEG and an API driven, really advanced, and picking up those other things. Like, again, the account takeover, not something that an SEG is going to do. An SEG isn't going to have anything to do with Dropbox or OneDrive or Google Drive. So those are some things that you really gain an incredible amount of power, and it's not even an overlap at that point in time. It's in addition to, with a greater layer of security to approach. Had some questions around, do we offer special pricing for the complete malware or the full suite? The answer is yes. And I'm going to go ahead and play the Wizard of Oz and pull the curtain back for a moment. Don't have the pricing on here, but it is. So if you want the complete malware protection, it's $2 per active user. And an active user is, we're looking at mailboxes, but we know that there's shared mailboxes out there. So we're not charging you for shared mailboxes. We're charging you for true paid mailboxes that you might have. And if you're looking for the full suite protection, and remember, you get the advanced anti-phishing, you get the complete malware, and then you also get the data loss prevention and the SIM integration and the encryption management tool for Office 365. That comes in at $3 per mailbox, or call it per user per month. But it is a paid mailbox, not one of your shared mailboxes. So, are you ready for a POC? Are you ready to deploy? I'm going to go ahead and pause here for a moment. I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to take out your phone, bring it up, scan it. I promise you, this is not a redirected malware site. This is not us trying to do something fancy. Mr. Clark here, that director of threat intelligence, has put this together for us. It's our Marine. As you can tell, he's happy today. They've given him some crayons before we started, so his hanger isn't around. So if you'll pull it out, go ahead, Corey.
I had cherry this morning.
Oh yeah, he had the cherry crayons. So he's a very happy Marine today. So if you'll take out your phone and you'll scan this, you'll see it'll pop up, it'll pre-populate, and it'll just, all you got to do is click send. Let us know. You want more information, you want to schedule a call with us, or you want to get into a proof of concept. We've had some partners that have seen Avanan before. It really wasn't for them. They were trying to figure it out. The pricing wasn't near as aggressive as what we're offering today. Take advantage of it. Jump on it. It's those of you that are maybe considering, hey, what else is my current solution missing? Don't know. Maybe it's missing nothing. Maybe it's missing something Oh man, and Corey, I think we got David saying the code does not work on Google Chrome. It just does a Google search.
It's
Well,
all you gotta do is bring up your camera, look at it, and it says email address, and you tap it. At least that's how it works on an Android.
and I will tell you on an iPhone, because I'm one of those guys, I'm a blue bubble guy, not a green bubble guy. And I think all of you probably know what that means is there's a bunch of techies on here. It comes up and it says, do you want to send this email? It launches my email app and I just click yes.
So otherwise, you can just email sales@solutionsgranted.com and say you're interested. We were just trying to make it a little easier. It definitely shouldn't be opening up in Google. In your Chrome.
Yeah, not sure why it's doing that. You know, but this maybe goes back to right where we were having problems in the beginning, even figuring out how to record this. I think we're really good at some things, and then I've got to get tech support into here to train me again. So let's see, what other questions do we have in here? So we've got some Q&A opportunity here. Let's see, the QR code, let's see. We got a JK from Sheldon. Can Avanon integrate with AppRiver hosted Exchange mailboxes? No, Bruce, I'm sorry, it cannot. Unfortunately, we can only integrate today with Office 365 and G Suite. And it's all based on the API integrations and what's available to us and how we can do it. Great question though. We'll make sure that we get with our support team over at Avanon and ask them if we can use this with AppRiver or if there is something that's going to happen in the future. I know it works with Mimecast, but will it work alongside Reflection? If Reflection is acting as a secure email gateway and it's integrated to your Office 365 or G Suite, yes, it will absolutely work with Reflection. Joe, what address do you want to send it to? Just send us an email at sales@solutionsgranted.com and say that you love the Shadow Man, Will Alexander, or that Corey needs another box of crayons, or you hated the presenter and you wish Jen would come back.
I think I'm seeing a lot of confusion here. So whatever email security you currently have in place isn't relevant. So we're doing the API call with your email platform, we're not like integrating into Mimecast. We're not integrating into Mail Protector or any other ones. It's with your current email platform,
right?
Or SharePoint.
And remember, there's some power behind that. One of the things that create when you enter into an SEG relationship, you're sending all of your mail to Office 365. You're sending it away from Office 365 to some other cleaning, scrubbing entity, which means if they have an outage, if something goes wrong, mail flow stops. We are directly integrated to Office 365. It's all API integrated, pre-mailbox. Therefore, there is no way that we can impact negatively based on an outage to stop mail from flowing. David, you said, can you go over the anti-phishing versus complete malware differences? Sure. So in the anti-phishing, the three big components that it brings to the table. Let me see, I'm just gonna see if I can back this slide up and I'll get there and bring it back right here. So in the anti-phishing, you obviously get anti-phishing. You get the email and account takeover protection. You get the URL click time protection, also shadow IT. What gets added on, and oops, sorry, clicked on the wrong screen. What gets added on, and this is in addition to, we're not taking anything away. What happens with the complete malware is we now have the abilities where we can start looking at and analyzing malware and sandboxing for OneDrive, for SharePoint, for Dropbox, for Citrix ShareFile, for Teams, for Slack. So we're adding the additional malware protection where we can now start analyzing in sandbox environment to see if there's anything in these online file storage repositories. And again, you're still getting all of the anti-phishing, account takeover, URL click time protection, and that shadow IT. So hopefully that answers the question. So let's see, do we have any other questions? Corey, Will, not sure if we've got any other protection or any other questions about protection or integration or anything else.
So Charles had a question asking about GoDaddy Microsoft 365 offering. As long as you have a Microsoft 365 portal to log into, and you can use an account with global admin rights, then we can integrate to it, or Avanan can integrate to it, I should say. If it doesn't, then no, sir, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I'm not positive what GoDaddy is doing today. I thought they were reselling 365, and this wasn't their hosted exchange service, but I don't know that for a fact. Chris, you said, can this be a replacement for the current email security in the advanced version? Chris, I think that this could be a replacement for any email security. Don't know exactly what version you have of what SEG you're using today, but I will tell you, it's going to give you more if you're just using an SEG, because none of the SEGs are going to tell you about account takeover. None of them are looking at OneDrive or Dropbox or ShareFile or G Drive. So having the ability to see that, not just from the malware aspect of it, but also from the account takeover aspect of it, those get taken over as well.
And I'm seeing questions similar to this that we kind of answered earlier in the Q&A of, well, why do I need this, right? So again, security is a layered approach. I get the same question when it comes to our endpoint offerings. If I have Cylance, why do I need Huntress? Why do I need InfoSight, right? Because it's a layered approach. Each of these different implementations and technologies have a strong point. If you need a full-fledged archiving email solution, right, the 800-pound gorilla, then you can look at Mimecast. Now, is it going to do the exact same thing that this solution is doing? There is going to be some overlap, but this is specific to those account takeovers and those spear phishings that your current email security might miss.
We had a good conversation with a partner 2 weeks ago up in Canada, and he's got a lot of cheap customers. And I'm just being kind of generous because they may not have been that nice. The aggressiveness of what the partner's customers may have been a little bit more aggressive than cheap. The problem has become is that he's got about 500 mailboxes that he's protecting. He said on any given month, he's spending about 5 or 6 hours responding to, answering for, or cleaning up a phishing email that somebody has clicked on. He's not charging his customers for that because he's in a firm fixed cost contract of what he's charging per seat. And that's the way we see a lot of our partners. So at 5 hours a month at $150 an hour, he's losing about $750 a month. If he decided to go this path, which he has, and he decided to pay the $1 and just go back to his customers, I'm doing this for you as a kindness, generosity, my COVID response to help you, in reality, saving himself an incredible amount of time, effort, and frustration, that there starts to become this financial win as to what he and his organization are starting to experience. Because now, instead of dealing with this 5 hours a month, it may be 15 or 30 minutes a month that he's starting to deal with questions that are coming about. Because again, it's not 100% because nothing is. And if anybody tells you it is, you should ask them to leave politely and get the hell out of your face, because I'm sure they're lying to you, because that 100% of what they're going to stop is never going to be true. All right, so let me see. Does Avanan scan and protect emails after delivery to the user's mailbox, or just so that the user is not exposed to malicious email? So it is looking prior to delivery. It is looking at those emails before they have been delivered. It is also looking at the internal communication of emails. So we are able to, now as far as the click time protection, no, nobody's analyzing the URL before it has been clicked on. So that is where the URL click time protection comes into play on this. All right, Corey, Will, do you see any other questions? Anybody else? Let's see. I don't think we have any more. Let's see, I've got one more in the chat. Instead of Dropbox, I have my clients use sync.com. No, unfortunately, that is not one of the apps that we are able to support today. They are always developing. There was another one that somebody had asked me about as well. So CAD pricing, Scott, I'm going to guess that that means Canadian dollars. And unfortunately, no, sir. This is just in US dollars. So whatever that exchange rate may be at the moment, it would be $1 plus whatever that exchange rate is. Yes, Sean, we do support Citrix ShareFile. That is one of the ones in the complete malware that we can take care of. All right, let me see. Are we seeing anything else? And man, we're doing pretty good on time. We were scheduled here for an hour, and I think we're coming to the end of it.
We are rocking this Q&A. That's a lot of questions.
You know what? This to me helps me understand that we really have an engaged community. These aren't dumb questions, you know, because you always hear that question and you always tell your kid there's no such thing as a dumb question. I am here to tell you that I've got a 9-year-old son and I love him to death, and he is mini me through and through. But man, that dude asks some dumb questions occasionally. So yes, there are dumb questions, but we're not seeing any of those today. Yes, we do have sales material that we can show you for your clients. We have a PDF, 2-page PDF that I believe is ready today. We were having a little bit of a creative difference with our graphic design artist as to what we want and how he thought it should be displayed, but I believe we do have that now. And our landing page for this should be live today as well. So you'll be able to pull down that data sheet or send an email in and tell us you want it and we'll get it to you. So what other questions did I miss, Corey or Will? Anything?
Canadian server farms. I don't know that answer. Do you know that answer, Will?
I don't know any.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that question specifically or what they're asking.
If you want to send us an email at sales, because it looks like you did it anonymously. If you want to send it to us at sales@solutionsgranted, we can do a further discussion.
So looks like, Mr. Jet, you were asking that a lot of your customers are not using Office 365 or G Suite. Some of them are even using POP. Unfortunately, Avanan will not help you with that. We really need that API integration. This is the only way that it can work. And the only 2 mail platforms that we can currently integrate with are going to be, call it Office 365 and or, you know, Microsoft/G Suite. Brandon, you'd ask, test NFR. Yes, please. We would love to do a POC with you for sure. Billing integration with ConnectWise, not yet today, but that is something that we are pursuing actively. And Bill, prices are great. Thank you for that. Even though you can't use it, you know, Bill, maybe it's time for a change and maybe we can convince your customers to go to Office 365, then you would be able to use it. I don't know, just an idea. Not all my ideas are good, but I've definitely got a few of them. All right, well, I don't see any other questions coming in. Obviously, please reach out to me. Please reach out to Corey, reach out to sales, give us a call. You know, email us, send a courier pigeon, smoke signal, whatever it takes. We're here. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to get you in a proof of concept, even if you already have what you consider is a great email security program, maybe just to see how this integrates, see how it works, see what it brings to the table, and see if there's something that's being missed that maybe gets caught. We've experienced it ourselves. That's why I think we're as big of a believer as we are in this today. So Corey, Will, unless you've got anything else, I think I'm going to give everybody about 19 minutes back in their day.
I did actually get an email. So one of our one of the directors from Avanan is actually on the call, and he sent me an email real quick about that Canadian server farm question. Sorry, and he did let me know that MSPs in Canada can keep their data in the country.
Oh, I understand. You guys wanted to make sure that the jackassery of the United States Patriot Act doesn't affect you. I now understand. Thank you very much. Yes, great question. And thanks for the Avanan team in answering that in such a timely manner. Chris, you said hello. Can you answer my question? I'm sorry, Chris. I don't think we saw your question. If you type it in there real quick, we'll certainly answer it.
I see it was answered. If you're asking about so he was asking about the $1 per mailbox after on the 1st of January. Do they lose the $1 per mailbox?
No, we will not do that. This is not a bait and switch type program. We will normalize our pricing come January 1st of 2021. And if you are already in the program, then you will maintain that price going forward. But as we get to January 1st and some net new partner comes in or net new opportunity that wasn't already existing with a partner established with us, then that price will normalize. And I don't know what that normalized price will be quite yet. We were more concerned about doing the right thing for the immediate future buyer partners.
So get locked into the price as a partner level pricing for the beginning of next year, which most of us can't wait for the next year.
I think we're all hoping for some maybe calmness in 2021 and less radical craziness that we've all experienced this year. All right, everybody, I appreciate your time. Again, thank you so much for those of you that have been participating in our webinars. You know, we don't typically do them this often. I think this is the second or third one that we've done now in a matter of 30 days, and the response from you all has been amazing. So I greatly appreciate it. You know, we don't get to do this without you. And so we really, really appreciate each and every single one of you participating in our dream and efforts and attempts to keep you and your customers safe. Thanks a lot, and hope everybody has a wonderful Labor Day weekend. Bye-bye.